Myrtle Beach is the beach. 60 miles of bright sand, water, and a wealth of wonderful music playing day and night. You can step into a simple beach bar and discover a surprising level of exciting musical talent. A place to kick back and groove to the enticing soundtrack of the most unexpected vacations around. With nothing but good vibes floating through the warm ocean air. Plan your own music-filled trip to America's Jukebox at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Newmark, a.k.a.
Uncle New.
From Jurassic 5, and you're checking out the library with my main man, Tim Onicle, on www.rapstation.com.
No sympathy, no sympathy, no sympathy. No sympathy, no sympathy, no sympathy. News fit for rhyme, BS fit to spit. The hate produce, swung up in a noose. Most them hits.
Public Enemy frontman, hip-hop legend, rock and roll Hall of Fame inductee. He's Chuck D. Chuck D, welcome to the library on rapstation.com.
Hey, thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure. I think you're one of the best that ever, that's ever done this. And we're talking about a long period of time just to be able to give a contrite interview and nail people with a direct response on the questions that hardly ever get asked. So I commend you and salute you on that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. So, Public Enemy is set to release your 15th album on July 15th of this year. It's called The Man Plans, God Laughs. What's the overall mission of this album?
I think the mission of the album is not to just present a record. I mean, there's a trillion records out there. There's also a past and a catalog and a history that Public Enemy has done. But there's some significance in this releasing of this particular record. The state and time is totally different. You talk about a group that's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 years ago. So this is the first of its kind. What record has come out from a hip-hop group that actually was already inducted? And for the first three inductions, it hasn't happened. But Public Enemy has been going on for 28 straight years. Unfortunately, we knew that the Beastie Boys would have been able to do it. We want more from Run DMC, and we would love for Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 to come together and do something, but I guess we're it. And so here it is. I think being at the age of 55 this summer and Flavor 56, we're in rarefied air. And there's really no expectations of anybody that's been, I guess, this high up in age doing something that's contemporary with this many, I guess the relevance of many countries waiting to say, okay, just to check it out. So I think on this record, inspired in the bio, of course, inspired by sonically what Kanye was able to do with Yeezus. I think also what Run the Jewels with LP and Killer Mike, just both of them getting in the lab together, and also what Kendrick Lamar was able to do with his topic and his fearlessness. There's a combination that was inspiring to myself and Gary G. Wiz, and we said, hey, look, if Killer Mike and LP can go into the studio, we've been working together for over 20 years. Every 8 years, myself and Gary G. Wiz get in the lab. So Apocalypse 91 and 91. 1999, there's a Poison going on. In 2007, How You Sell Soul to the Soulless People that sold their soul. And our biggest record in the last 25 years has come off of that. And that was Harder Than You Think, which is one of the top 5 records we've done of all time. Still lesser known in the United States, although it's been in significant films.
You just mentioned working with Gary. What is that collaboration process like? I mean, is it something that you guys have to, in the age of email, obviously, like you guys don't have to be in the same room or, to collaborate. But do you work best with him if you guys are in the same room together, or I mean, have you gotten to the point where you can, be an email or text?
Well, after 25 years, it's telepathic. And we're in the same area, so it's not like I'm east and he's west. We're both west, and I cut a lot of my vocals by J.P. Hessa and Castaway Studios, where I cut a lot of the Black and Man vocals, and we said, hey, look, I said, you know what, Gary, totally this is up to you. And Gary lost his dad last year. Flav lost his mom a year and a half ago. This record is dedicated to their memory. So it's something that actually there's some energy that's over the record. And I said, look, I'm going to just cut vocals and give a direction to whatever you choose, and then you're going to take the vocals. And the beautiful thing about this is a lot of vocals on the cutting room floor, which damn near sets a template. I personally feel that this record sets a standard for how a 55-year-old, over 50, or really over 40-year-old MC should spit. Like the uncle on the porch, Tim,
Yeah.
and the uncle doesn't mince too many words. It doesn't say too many words.
Mm-hmm.
I think this record signifies that. It's more like George Foreman when he fought Michael Mora for the heavyweight championship, but he didn't have all this flash and dash. He just knocked Mora out with one plodding punch. And I think the words drop like cinder blocks. And we tried to go for the initially this idea came out. We wanted to make a 15-minute album, meaning that we wanted to make each song not even make 2 minutes, sort of like a Ramones punk approach. We couldn't do that. But the whole key on this record is that it's so much less is more. It's a 30-minute, it's really a 29-minute some odd second record, and best records on the album to me are the ones that are like 2 minutes. I mean, powerful. They're like short Bruce Lee kick jabs. So there's areas where the music breathes so much and the words just come in and ride it. I believe that a 20-year-old MC and 16-year-old MC and 30-year-old MC of Max could come up with lyrical gymnastics. But if you did something like that before, what are you proving against yourself? Let the music breathe. We eliminated the third verse, which I think increasingly as we go in hip-hop, the third verses are becoming useless. That's why you see a lot of collabs. The collaborations and remixes are like in the NBA. It's like it's like the three-pointer. It's like to the point. It's like, yes, it's a whipping, and after a while it becomes a crutch, and after a while the game just morphs. So we felt that, if you're an established artist for many years, you have a catalog. We eliminated the third verse, and the vocals are sparse but heavy and powerful and listenable if you're trying to actually cross not even the barrier of who's going to already check you out, but the barrier of somebody young that wants to be able to feel the music. I think there was something in the emergence of EDM, Tim, and I think there was something in the happening of ringtones about 7 or 8 years ago. There was something there. Not to say that the ringtone would be a record, but what a ringtone did for MC, I think it signified there's something between the ringtone timing and something that covers the two-verse area. And I personally feel that there's a burnout area in hip-hop and rap music. Why? I just think because there's a lot of material out there. We judge a lot of material at Rap Station. We get a lot of stuff. But I do think that most records end between 3 minutes and 5 minutes, and I think that's a burnout area. I think either you're going to you need records that come up with 2 minutes, 2:01, 2:13, in the range of what Peter Piper and my Adidas did, or just make, epic 8-minute, 9-minute records, And I just think that's beyond the sonic. So that's just the technical aspect of it. I think the point of view actually reflects in what we're seeing now in today's world in 2015, even the big difference from 2014 and 2013. A lot of things went on, whether it's, the questioning of authority and police brutality and the issues of corporations just trying to make people into a mindless hump. And just, this speaks at all governments for saying that you're getting far away from human beings. And so Man Plans, God Laughs, the title actually came from Julius Dr. J. Irving when I actually did a Emmy Award-winning voiceover for his documentary, and then one incident happened in his life where he and his brother had these plans, and his brother passed away. And Dr. J said in the documentary, well, I guess, man plans, God laughs. And the first time I ever heard of that. So on Rap Station, when I actually did an interview with Mike Tillery in the sports area Rap Station, and it was with Dr. J, I told Dr. J, I said, it inspired me so much, I wrote a whole album about it. He said, yeah, that's true. I grew up in the church, and that's what they will always say, man plans, God laughs. But then Dr. J added, well, but plan anyway. so that was that's the thing. And the undertag of the album is, if we don't matter, no lives matter, which means that us as human beings, that's the synonymous language of the planet Earth through culture, tying us together with our similarities. Very, very important.
You obviously covered a lot there, and I want to talk about some of the tracks, but also, actually, I want to talk about the last track of the album, which would have been my last question, but it kind of sums up what you were talking about with this album, Less is More. Yeah. Looking at the lyrics page, you get to the last track, which is Praise the Loud, and I couldn't find any lyrics. So I imagine that's just an instrumental. So I was wondering why end the album with that.
Well, that record was an intro of it originally. But, like in a regular Public Enemy fashion, we got to an area looking at each other and said, this is not only is it too long, but it's so typical of starting off our records with an intro. So we made it an outro. And No Sympathy from the Devil turns into be a really offbeat, unusual intro. But it is an intro. It's not really, the bang-out performance record, but it's a sinister entry. So, it was like one of the last-minute calls. Sequencing is very important for a Public Enemy record, because Public Enemy has always been based off of album concepts. And so the sequencing has always been just as important as the production. And the sequencing of you talking about a 29-minute record, it's paramount. So it ended up being an outro. It ended up being a better outro than it was an intro. Originally there was lyrics to it, but it was one of those things where they ended up on the cutting room floor. So much stuff ended up on the cutting room floor as far as vocals. I was very happy about the stealth, the sparse, I should say, approach to this. I do believe that, it's almost like when the uncle tries to prove that he can spit like his nephew or son. It's like nobody's trying to hear what the old dude is saying anyway. So say strong things in short bursts and call it a day. And that comes from the experience of just, how I talk to younger heads, which is pretty much everybody under 50.
Actually, that's what I noticed about this album, is that there's a lot of references to youth in your lyrics. And in the title track, Man Plans, God Laughs, the first bar is, let it be what it is, fight the power for the kids who don't know, you may ask yourself, figure it out. And then you end the record with, be the change you want to see, I want to be, let it be revolution. And then you have half point saying, do it for the youth. How do you connect with youth without them thinking you're that guy who's talking at them, as opposed to working with them?
Well, the language, you got to really, pick out that language, and also you got to understand how much time you have to get across to them. You should also have the understanding that you're not trying to be their friend, and you're not trying to do anything to appeal to them. People gravitate to something that they figure out that they can actually draw from on their time. And I just think we entered a period, as far as even 15 years ago, where you start seeing older people capitulate their age and their values to try to be hip to young people. And before it used to be the other way around. I'm already hip. So I tell cats all the time, I say, it's easy to speak your language, and really seriously, I'm hipper than your father and your next son. How about that? They'd be like, yo, OG, I got you. So you give younger generation a chance to breathe. I never blame youth for anything. We have to really hold accountable those that also got into that zone of 30 to 45, or maybe 28 to 43. Like, okay, you're not no child, and you ain't gonna be hip to you. So where you standing, you know. That's what that area. Am I a radical? Am I a pacifist? Am I scared to fight? Am I grown? Am I owned? That's a challenge to the 28 to 48-year-old. Like, okay, where do you stand? I understand a teenager. I understand maybe even somebody who's cracking 20, 21. But I'm trying to figure out where you at. I understand an old head at 55 and 60. I'm trying to figure out where's that zone of 28 to 45, that powerful zone that teenagers need more than ever. Are they trying to, have they lost themselves trying to appeal to them? Or do they stand on their own ground of some kind of principle and value, whatever they might feel that it is?
There's one of the tracks on the record, Give Peace a Damn. I imagine the overall theme of that record can be summed up with these lyrics, quote, every hood is the same, the only difference is the slang. Why do you think we're so divided, and how can we convince people, give peace a damn?
Well, it could go both ways. Authority got to give a damn. A lot of times the authority comes in, whether it be government, corporations, or enforcement, and they disturb the peace. Then they tell you that, well, we're gonna present that disturbing of the peace with our authority. So it's like, well, you guys cracked the damn peace in the first place. So to give peace a damn was a point going to a lot of different areas of, okay, if you want peace, you got to work for it, because there's always something that's trying to get you to fight, against yourselves, usually for nothing. But also authority comes in, and they like to sometimes exacerbate things. So giving peace a damn is really trying to understand what kind of peace you want and what is peace in the first place.
I want to move on to the track Honky Tonk Rules, because it samples the Rolling Stones, and what kind of stood out for me was something you talk about a lot with hip-hop artists, is that we don't have, or for some reason we don't appreciate like rock and roll artists as the Rolling Stones as they get older. Like we don't have the Ramones, and stuff like that. And so it stood out to me because you were sampling the Rolling Stones. How did this song come together, and what's the mission of the track? But also for you, what's the personal and professional significance, if any, does this track have to you when you're using the Rolling Stones?
Well, we fought for this record. I think I was inspired by going on YouTube and seeing, well, not just YouTube, but I knew I had the footage anyway, since I'm a footage collector and also a fan of the Stones. And it was the first time that Mick Jagger and the Stones performed this record, and it was right after Brian Jones' death in 1969. And they were in Hyde Park, which is in the middle of London. And I see the footage, and Mick Jagger, Mick Taylor, who co-wrote the record with Charlie Watts, and also Keith Richards. I mean, they made this joint funky. Now, you could tell also that this was like one of the first times they filling this record out, which is usually when you're checking out a band and they're performing a record for the first time. They're really funking it out because the spaces, they got unsure spaces. And when I heard this, I was like, yo, I want to cover that. I knew the Honky Tonk Woman as a record, but the performance that they did of this when the record was fresh and new was totally different, especially in the hook, than the other record ended up, with more like a sing-songy vocal or whatever. So I told Gary about the funkiness and the beat, and he came back with a beat which was more like a Run DMC-ish joint, which I really dug. And I built upon that and made Honky Tonk Woman, which was basically about, some hookers in New Orleans and Brazil. I made it about the damn law. Honky Tonk Rules is like I'm tired of one-sided laws. And, and just recently, just the whole Confederate flag thing is like, okay, you got the nerve to jail people under this flag. It's just like, people on another side of this coin is like saying this has been so derogatory that we've taken the talk, but I'm just tired of you trying to back up that flag with the same old talk, Honky Tonk Rules. Yeah. And I fought for that record because initially when we wanted to clear it, we were totally rejected by our publisher, by their publisher. So I reached out to the Stones, and I also reached out to Bernard Fowler. And the tripped up thing, Bernard Fowler, when I actually did a Rolling Stones tribute in Cleveland in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a year ago, I met Bernard Fowler and Sarah Dash and Mary Clayton and Bobby Keys, who's passed on, and Ian guys who actually was the Rolling Stones band that played on Sticky Fingers and all that. I did a tribute, and I met those fine people, and I kept in touch with Bernard Fowler. First, I reached out to Marshall Chess, who used to run the Rolling Stones record label, and Marshall says, I'm not in contact with them anymore, but, here's a person who's Keith Richards' manager. Maybe you get in touch with her. I wrote her. And then I wrote Bernard. And Bernard said, hey, by the way, we're down in there in L.A. getting ready to, rehearse for a tour. Come on down. I was like, yeah. So me and Gary went on down to the rehearsal spot, a place that we've also rehearsed before, down in Burbank. And there they were. It was Charlie Watts, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ron Wood, Bernard Fowler and Lisa Fisher singing, and just their crew, and that was it. and me and Gary. So we're like looking at the Rolling Stones 4-hour performance. 4-hour performance, it's like 4-hour rehearsing. I mean, like Mick Jagger laying out the baby powder and doing the Mick Jam dance, and Charlie Watts playing beats, and then looking over at me, and I'm looking behind me like, who's he? Man, he's pointing at me. It's like, yo, it was mind-blowing. And then in talking to Keith's manager, they was like, well, we don't own the publishing. ABCO, which is Alan Klein, owned it up to from, the 60s all the way up to 1969. So, you had to go through them. And we first tried to reach out through them. We had the blessings of the Stones as yeah, hell yeah, yo, go for it. Yeah, But then we had to get the publishing clearance. And initially we were rejected because they had a whole nother thing in their mind. They thought we was going to come across to them like maybe P. Diddy or somebody and have like 18 different publishers on there. And they don't want their records like touched like that. They're like, we don't, nah, man. It's like, you take it as it is and you give us 100%. We were like, we ain't got a problem with that. We'll add on, but you guys own the copyright. And when they found out that we intended to, not invade their copyright, they were like, all good. Like I said, we wanted to have that record real bad. We performed it initially in London at the end of June, and it went over pretty big. It's a different vibe, man. And once again, it's got that beat that G Wiz put to it, and lyrics I think that are very clear. Yeah, it totally was an experience to go the 9 yards to try to put smack dab in the middle of this album. It's also not on the vinyl because we didn't know whether we was going to get it or not. And there was no way to actually make another version that it was either going to be a cover interpolation or it was not going to exist at all. So
I want to continue on with another track, Mind Again. You said this is about an African American having a conversation with himself about his African roots and sounding conflicted about his identity, and that you also wrote that you also wrote it almost a decade ago after your experience in Africa. Why wasn't this particular record released when it was written, and how do you keep a record like this relevant for today?
Well, I wrote this record coincidentally when I was at Air America in 2004, 2005, and I wrote it and kind of like, couldn't, figure out its way, right? And then myself and James Baum, who has actually become more significant on this record, decided to get together on writing some, poetry to describe, in the search for our Africa within ourselves and connect ourselves with the diaspora. There's a lot of chaos going on in the continent. And there's always this doubt of, am I doing enough to reroot myself and I have an understanding of the roots? And then this tells a story of somebody that goes back to Africa to help out. And the journey of going back to Africa, and it's like it could be, Liberia, it could be Sierra Leone, it could be Cote d'Ivoire, it could be, any Rwanda, it could be any war-torn area. And the mindset to go help out, the story is that this person's in the back of some place, isolated, and they step on a landmine. Because there's still a lot of landmines still scattered all throughout Africa. There's nobody else around this person. And while that's good, if you know anything about landmine, once you step on it, okay, you're stepping on it. It's not going to blow up until you take your foot off. So this person's isolated. And James wrote actually, the thoughts that go through your head as the rhymes talk about what goes through your head if your mind, all this doubt, like, did I do the right thing? And is Africa really mine? And is this much different than just I could have stayed in the United States and still helped my people and found my roots, and all this area of doubt comes out in the song. So in my discussions about the song, it's like I people say, well, damn, that's not just a song. It sounds like a damn movie. Yeah, I mean, it's within an eyelash distance of kids working in diamond mines. So you see somebody talking about, in their rhymes or whatever, how much diamonds they got. At least that was the thing definitely 10 years ago, or when I wrote this record, diamonds was a rapper's best friend. You could see the recession kind of or depression kind of knocked a little of that down. With all this going through the mind of it. I always used to say, I said, when you if you're writing a rap song, you should at least have a couple of songs that you have a bigger conversation about it than the lyrics itself. It's like, what conversation can you have about a song outside the amount of lyrics that you've written? If you can write a book about a song that you've written, I think that's a good thing for an MC to strive for. Because if you don't, then it doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing or the best thing. It means that, over a period of time, you're bound to repeat yourself so many times that you keep cycling and grinding yourself into a circle. And grinding yourself into a circle repeatedly is a screw. So you got to come out of the screw. Sometimes you got to grind in reverse. Sometimes you just got to just stop still. Sometimes you got to try to elevate, because you keep going in circles, then it's you against yourself. The thing that breaks you out of that is that you got to just say that as an artist, I do more than just write and record songs. What's your performance aspect of these songs in front of people? I don't care if it's two people in a cafe. It's still a grail to get past. It's a hurdle to be able to make your songs from something that's 2-dimension into like 4 to 5 dimensions, and performance does that. What's your visual aspect of it? Your visual presentation. Can you actually enhance people's imagination? So that was a challenge of mine again, bringing it from a written word to making it, breathe something. And that's very important for a songwriter. Can you make that song breathe on its own and step away from it? That's always been an important aspect. It might not get, the source quotables, but then I think a lot of these areas, they stay in a zone where they don't grow, they don't make the songwriting of hip-hop grow higher than, or they don't concentrate enough on it to say, all right, we really think this record, based on the words, has life to it beyond the song itself. That's talking about the administration. That's why we try to do at Rap Station what we try to do. We try to actually add a science to this that goes beyond.
So it's cool to be black until it's time to be black. Ain't never too late to go back and get back. So I let born afters know I rap for Africa, to give to the motherland to see what's mine again. Be of service, land of dark faces, split, colonized in 53 places. The greed went on till everything was gone. Wiped out by previous wars I worked on. Graves of the poor to clean up this mess left by the West. My duty to the African. Tell my next of kin in a song, but damn nothing around me and what the hell I step on.
With my head on straight, I was gone too damn long.
Mine again?
Over 450 years to be exact. Not paying attention, I stepped on a mine.
On the edge of motherland, around my head, compromising this Christian missionary position. Fear, there must be some way up out of here. What a bitch, mother effort, then a clean up ditch effort. Stepped on some bomb shit that a past war left it. Kids dying in nearby diamond mines. Out here working that worldwide grind. Hope somebody finds me out left behind. Silent ticks killing me softly, malaria, but the beers, they the one got me sick. Isolated while I waited, with thoughts in my head about my sole intention to save my brothers and sisters.
My thoughts racing as my tears run down my face.
Mine again?
I came back to help repair what's mine.
Mine again.
If I move, I'm a gone.
My sole intention to save my brothers and sisters. How we became boy instead of mister. I came too far here to be called some nigga. My foot on some bomb, I'ma end up worse than a drifter. Myself and what my foot stuck on, 360 degrees. Mine.
Was it all worth it?
Again?
Is Africa really ours?
Mine.
This mind got me thinking.
Again.
All this death and destruction.
Mine.
Let's not forget about the corruption.
Again.
To rob the motherland of its resources.
Mine.
Is Africa mine? Or the people who sit in the seat of power? Mine again. Mine again. Mine again.
Myrtle Beach is the beach. 60 miles of bright sand, water, and a wealth of wonderful music playing day and night. You can step into a simple beach bar and discover a surprising level of exciting musical talent. A place to kick back and groove to the enticing soundtrack of the most unexpected vacations around. With nothing but good vibes floating through the warm ocean air. Plan your own music-filled trip to America's Jukebox at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
After the end of a good fight, you deserve an ice-cold reward. Modelo, you put in the hours, the energy, the tough labor, because you know the bigger the fight, the better the reward. Modelo, the mark of the fighter. Drink responsibly. Beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.